A good evening, Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope, as well as our other podcasting outlets. Tonight is Thursday night, 9 o'clock, and as usual, we want to dive into the book by this fabulous author, Julia Dozier, who is the writer of two books. The book that we're going over is Crown Rules 2, King: How Black Men Love. Um, we are on episode 6 in the fifth question. What's
Yeah.
up, Jules?
Nothing much, Quentin. How you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited about tonight's show. I hope that we can provide the audience with as much sparks as Gucci Man and Wheezy. And Jeezy. But we shall see. But I think that this is a very interesting show. I think that tonight's topic is kind of it's you place the fifth question in like the middle,
Yes.
and I think it's there because maybe sometimes in marriages or relationships that have been going on for a while, sometimes you need to understand the fifth question
Yes.
instead of getting stagnated. So the fifth question in your book was how to maintain love.
How do you maintain love?
Hmm.
How
So
do you
as
maintain?
I as I was reading, I did take some notes.
Yes.
Whew.
I
And they
wonder.
get
I wonder if we're going to be on the same page with our notes. We usually
oh
are.
oh yeah, we'll definitely be on the same page. Consistency.
Mm.
One brother said the way that you maintain it is to continuously be consistent in that love. You know, you as some people say, you came in flowers, cards, and all the trimmings.
Yes.
Be consistent with flowers, cards, and all the trimmings. So I
Yes.
thought that his point was very interesting. Being consistent with that love, and a lot of times people aren't consistent because life happens. The job, you may have kids, so it may become monotonous where you're going to work every day. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the conversation is the same as yesterday, and
Mm-hmm.
you know someone may not feel love, whether he or she or both may not feel loved, so they start to feel separate.
Yes.
So maintaining love, I really, like I said, I really thought it was important that you put it in the book in that fifth question.
Yes.
Someone else put spontaneous emotions and actions, honest through honest, stability, keep flowing.
Yep.
Interesting perspective there. And I
Mm-hmm.
told you I was on it today.
Mm-hmm.
I even had a portion of the book where uh who's this? Let me gotta be sure who this is before I start quoting. This is Matt.
Okay.
Matt said something I thought was interesting, and I believe his assessment of maintaining love was very honest,
Yes, it was.
very transparent,
Yes,
and
it
he
was.
was really speaking about where he was at today and understanding where he was at in that relationship.
Absolutely.
He said, I loved my ex because I felt we had a family and I was willing to fight God for her because I had a family. I had two girls. I was just like, regardless of how she makes me feel, I mean, we were at a point where we didn't like each other. Well, I didn't like her for a couple of years, but I loved her. So
Mm-hmm.
there's like a difference. I was able to tolerate and put up and just act like none of it bothered me because I wanted to give my daughters an example of what it is, what it was that love could be, how good and how dope it could be. I
Yes.
put up, I put up a crazy front because I didn't want to alter nothing or give them a broken family, which seemed to be like the norms these days.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
didn't I didn't want that for them and my daughters. Before I
Exactly.
go before I go on and read the second paragraph, I thought that was very interesting because you do hear a lot of times people will be in marriages or relationships and they may have came from broken homes
Mm-hmm.
or they seen people come from broken homes and they will do anything to try to maintain the front of being happy just to not be in that broken home.
I believe that is the case a lot of times. I think what I saw when I read Matt's response, and even when I was interviewing him, is that he entered into his relationship, even if he didn't enter into the relationship, as he continued on in the relationship and they began to have children, he developed a vision and a purpose for what he wanted his family life to be. And he was committed to that purpose regardless of the satisfaction or the happiness that he was receiving in the relationship. I think when it comes to maintaining love, it's important for both people to share the purpose and to share the vision and to share the commitment. And I think that's where the problem was here.
And I'm glad that you brought that up because that speaks about the second paragraph.
Hmm.
He said, I was able to maintain love through the strength of the image that I wanted for my future. But
Hmm.
you can't control your partner's way of thinking.
Hmm.
She wanted something different. She thought something different. We were on two different levels where I wanted to grow. I
Hmm.
wanted to do more and secure a better future for them, whereas she was just focused on today.
Hmm.
I mean, love is a sacrifice. Love is compromise. If you
Hmm.
can't find a balance in between those two, and you have to sit down, you have that sit down conversation with that person, then you're in love with, and you will all can come to some type of agreement and some
Hmm.
type of accord. Oh, he was so very transparent. All the brothers I believe in your book were very transparent, very.
Yes,
And
yes.
like I said, his statement was very profound, and he understood. He loved his family, and I don't think that a lot of people, when a lot of people get married or have children, they don't think about divorce. This is the end all be all.
Right. This is
So,
it.
like he's saying, like he was willing to sacrifice. He said in the beginning of the first paragraph, he was willing to fight God
Yes. He loved
to
her.
keep up that image. And I'm glad that he found peace with where he's at today.
Yes.
And he was very, very transparent. And it was very, very interesting. And you remembered it. That you have very good memory of your interview skills.
Yes. It was very impactful. It was a beautiful experience just hearing from all of the gentlemen. And so it was a memorable experience. One of the things that I know we'll probably get to as we go through the discussion tonight is that some of the gentlemen in the book, or at least one of the gentlemen in the book, stated that the way that you maintain love is by being in a relationship with the right person to begin with. And sometimes I'll read exactly what he said. He said, "How a relationship starts is usually how it ends." This is Lee. It's on page 91. If there is pretense in the beginning, it's going to end like that. It's going to end with the pretense being exposed. And so the what we have to be very attentive to is that we're entering into relationships with the right person for the right reason, knowing that that might change over time, but then what's the purpose for the relationship? The purpose of the relationship should help to keep people together, um, if they as they grow, as they change, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I thought that was very interesting. And another Kevin, I liked his answer. I like some of his points. He said, to answer your question directly, how do you maintain love? It is a lot of self effort, and it also goes back to being selfless and unselfish.
Hmm.
Because there are a lot of times when I want to do what I want to do, and I can't do it because I'm in a relationship. I can't do that. So that's how you maintain it. I think of at I think after a certain amount of time, and that time being years for me, I think you just understand that this is what you are supposed to do in the relationship. I see that in the relationship with my brother and his wife, and I know that they don't have the perfect relationship, but I know there is love between them. These are the things you sacrifice, Interesting point. Sacrifice, understanding, and being able to not be able to do what you want to do. A lot of times we have this false ego, and we'll be able to do what we want to do. Not that our mate should be our overseer, but understand that the decisions that you make not only affect you, but it affects another human being.
Another human being. And I think that I love that point, Quentin. And I think it goes back to, making sure that we're in the right relationship with the right person. I had a wonderful conversation with a very good friend of mine. I've been friends with her for years. We had a wonderful conversation on Tuesday morning, and we were talking about the fact that sometimes nowadays people don't say, would you like to be my girlfriend? Would you like for us to be in a relationship? What are we agreeing to do here? Just, outside of just spending time together and getting into these norms and customs that we find in relationships, it's important to be in agreement that you're in a relationship with someone, because once you agree that you're in a relationship with someone, then I think it's almost a given that you might have to compromise sometimes, that you might have to think about that other person instead of yourself. But if you haven't agreed to be in a relationship, then there's no need to make those kind of compromises and sacrifices.
Yeah, because I think, and I'm in total agreement with you, because a lot of times what happens is a person will have an intention on something, and their intention may not coincide with what you expect or what you want. And then when you do ask that question, they may say like, "Oh no, no, we just chilling."
We're just chilling.
Hold up, what's just chilling? Like, I need to know where we going with this, and what is your intention? Just chilling is just not enough sometimes, because now it comes with responsibility. It comes with understanding.
Yes,
Um, because I think that if you just go with the premise of just chilling, this is where the problems occur. Because
absolutely.
now you 6, 7 months, a year down the line, it's somebody has an expectation or not, and then it's not being met, or just chilling could lead to a child. Now you don't have a child with this person, and you don't really know them, because y'all premise was
We're
we
just
just
chilling.
chilling. We just gonna see what happens. Like Helena just said, we just kicking it.
Yeah.
We're just kicking it.
And what exactly are we kicking? Because we can't kick around my time, my effort, my future, my goals, my plans. We can't kick that around, right? So, and nobody should want to have that kicked around. And when you connect to relationships without intention or purpose or understanding, you're kicking all of those things around.
And like mom just said, and then you have those people who are in relationships where you are the only one in the relationship, and that's very common. That's very common. You may have a person that's maintaining the love, maintaining the relationship, and the other one may have checked out.
All the way out. So the person is
Yeah.
putting in the double effort. And everyone, one of the things that Matt also said is that you don't want to turn around and realize that you've been giving your full effort to someone who might have deserved half of your effort. So it's important to be attentive to that too, I think. What are you receiving?
Yeah. I have some other things. I like, one person said prayers,
Yes,
work, attention. The other
yes,
one comparing maintaining love is like a river with the
yes.
ebbs and flows. Just you just gotta just
So,
go with it. And I thought that was really 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 nice.
mm-hmm,
Um, one brother put put something, loving you first, and I thought that this, I made a mental note of it as something in the book.
yes,
Um, he said loving you
yes.
first. If you don't
Mhm.
love you, you really don't know how to love no one else.
Nope.
And I thought that was interesting, that a lot of times, like a lot of the brothers that you interviewed spoke about their ex relationship or their ex wives, and
Mm-hmm.
they just seemed to be very open about where they were at, and I thought that when he said that about the love, like, you know, he just knew, like, how can I love somebody so much to be able to maintain love, and I may not love myself fully, or vice versa. She may have didn't love him.
Gotta love
But
yourself. It was like you were talking about, I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago, that, the self-love is important, number one. And number two, but like we were just talking about backstage, that it's important to look at your experiences in a positive light, even if they were hurtful or even if they were disappointing, to look at them in a positive light and to find the lessons in them, because the lessons contain very valuable information about how you can love yourself better.
mhm.
Usually, when we have relationships that are not successful, it's because we gave too much for too little, or we expected something from someone who was not able to give it.
Say that again. We gave
We
too much.
give too much for too little.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
we have to be able to evaluate what happened in our relationship so we can pull out those lessons, and those lessons lead us to self-love. If we can be, attentive to, these are the things that I need and require, or these are the things that I desire, or these are the things that I want, and to make sure that we're getting them. It doesn't make sense to stay in a relationship where you're not happy.
Um, those in the chat, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe, and share, and invite people to the channel. Invite people to this discussion. Um, there's no such thing as incorrect answer when we talk about these subjects. So just be mindful of that. And I got one more mental note that I took, that I thought was very interesting,
Yes.
and it came from my brother Nicky. Woo,
I knew you were going to go there.
woo, woo.
Wasn't he honest?
Yes, very honest. You said, "How do you maintain love?" He said, "That's a hard one. That's a hard one for me." And you asked him, "Why is it hard?" He said, "I have not been successful in maintaining long term relationships. I have had long term relationships, but they have not been. I'm a mature man, and I've got children who are mature, who are adults, and I've truly been in love a few times in my life. I define success in relationships between a man and a woman, and like the biblical ideal, one man, one woman, cleaving unto each other, doing it all under God till death does do us part. I have made those vows several times, and I have not kept them by God's standards. I have not been successful in relationships, but each time I have been in relationships, God has provided me with a clean slate. I didn't have to bring all that baggage from one thing unto this." Wow.
Okay. Clean
Wow.
slate. Clean slate. Clean slate. I love that. What do you think about that, Quincy?
I thought that he was very honest. I thought that he was honest with his relationship with his creator. I
Yes.
thought and that's paramount if you are spiritual, you religious, that you have that honest and open relationship, because if you do have that belief in God, don't beat yourself up. Number one, when you fall short, but be honest with you falling short. And I think that he was very honest with him falling short and not living up to the standards that God had provided him to live with. But he should know that you know, you can fall down 25 times. As
You
long
get
as you
back
get up to
up.
26 time, you're good. So I
But
thought it was very honest and open about, just trying, just trying, just trying, just trying. And he's trying. He understands trying to get it right. And I thought, like I said about everybody else, very transparent.
and Quentin, what I really love about his response to this question goes back to what we were just talking about. after that paragraph that you just read, he and I had a lot of back and forth because he was feeling bad about the fact that he had not been successful. He was remorseful that he had not been successful, especially because he's in our 60-something-year-old category. Again, the book interviews men throughout their lifespan from the age of 30-something to the age of 80-something. And he's our 60-year-old in the book. So he was very remorseful. And after that paragraph, we went back and forth a lot because he felt like he didn't know. And I said to him, I said, but you do know. And this is what he said. He said, I know. How do you maintain a good relationship? You start out with the right person for the right reasons. Have reasonable expectations. Know your own limitations. Be honest with yourself and be reasonably honest with the other person. Start out with a commitment to your commitment, and what you intend will happen.
Hello. Hello. You have a question here.
Even though I have my glasses on, I can't see.
Miss Carla Brown said, but what does loving yourself first look like? Loving yourself might be respecting yourself and not putting oneself in the wrong relationships.
Absolutely. I think loving yourself looks like understanding and having boundaries. I think sometimes when we're not loving ourselves, we allow a lot of things to happen that we might not necessarily want to happen. So having boundaries, loving ourselves may look like communicating on the things that feel good to us that we like, and also the things that don't feel good to us, and giving a person an opportunity to correct those things. Loving ourselves can also be taking care of ourselves and treating ourselves well, having making a good meal for ourselves. Like, you have to, before you can expect someone else to treat you with that sweetness and kindness, you got to give it to yourself.
That's right. One second.
That's
One
a good
second.
question.
You can love someone the wrong way. That was another question on that statement. But I know that we weren't able to have our guests come on the show, but they did a video for us, and we would really like the audience to pay attention to the video they did for us. Um, we'll talk about the video after we watch it, but give us some background on who this couple is to you, Julie.
Okay, so this couple is Mr. Benny and Mrs. Maria Simmons. I know them from a church that I used to attend in the Bronx, New York, Friendly Baptist Church, where the praise is real. And there were many married couples in that church, which was a good example for our youth and people who were in the process of courting, dating. You could always look over at someone and see an example of their relationship. And with Mr. Benny and Miss Maria, they impacted me so much. Number one, they remind me of family. But number two, but also he was always very gentle, caring, and respectful of her. And she was always very soft and delicate, but also strong in her presence around him. And the two of them together just lit up the room. And to me, that was a beautiful example of love. I never saw them be disrespectful to each other or anyone else, and I never saw them be angry. Um,
For the purposes of the video, I had to cut the video to about 4 minutes and 40 seconds. It's about 6 minutes long. Julia put the video up on her page as well as I put it up on my page to watch the whole video. But this is just a 4 minute and 40 second part of their video, and this is what they wanted to share with us.
Hello, Julia. This is Maria and Benny. We're very grateful to be on your show, and we thank you for thinking of us. Our story started, well, back in 1990. I was in a relationship with a man for 8 years, and he was 15 years my senior, And he was in my life for a reason, you know, a purpose. And I thank God for that because he taught me a lot, but then he had to move on. And I placed an ad in the Daily News in the Dateline. I don't know if you remember that, but that was years ago. I was tired of being by myself. And at the same time, by coincidence, Ben was going through his changes with his wife. And in 1990, he also walked into a lawyer's office for a divorce. Now, let him tell you the rest of the story.
Thanks, babe. 1990, I divorced my wife. We weren't getting along, and I want to add that I wasn't saved at that time, and she was not saved at that time. So it just didn't work out because neither one of us knew the Lord. But anyway, I read this article. I came in from work, and it was from the Dateline, and the article, it was specifically for me because it had the correct age, the height, weight, and everything. And I said, whoever this lady is, she's talking about me. So I answered it, and a couple of days later, she got back to me. We talked for a while, and I was working construction at Hostos Community College, and we decided to meet. My coworkers thought I was crazy because they said, well, what happens if she's not what you would expect her to be, and you told her what you had on so you couldn't get away from it? But I said, no, I'm not like that. So anyway, after work, we met, and we stayed in this little diner very late because she had to go to work the next day, and I had to go to work the next day. And this was in the Bronx, and I had to take the train all the way back to Brooklyn, but it didn't matter. And we've been together ever since.
Yes.
We dated for 13 years before we decided to make it official, and we got married, and we've been happily married for 15 years. And I just want to say that this is what a marriage is supposed to be like. Because before, when I was married, it was a lot of disagreements and arguing, and we didn't get along. And I said, how can people be married for so many years? Is this what marriage is about? And I said, no. I wasn't happy. She wasn't happy. I didn't have anything to compare it to. But now that I met Maria, I have been a very happy man. And I would marry her all over again. And this is the love of my life. I have to admit, I love her very much.
Thank you. And I love you too, babe. You've been an inspiration for me. I always wanted a man who not use drugs, not smoke, maybe a drink here and there, you know, no big deal. But a man who wanted to know more about God. And I thank God that his mother was such a church lady, and she was always calling us, get to church, get to church. And at that time, we was still, we don't want to go. Because he was working late hours, and he was the MTA bus operator, and he was working crazy hours and on weekends, you know. And me, being in accountants, I was working at crazy hours also. And we had our deadlines, so we didn't have time. But when he retired, he got tired of being home. It's like the walls were sinking in on him, and he decided. But before that, this man was ordering suits like crazy. And I'm like, we must be doing some serious hanging out because the way you're buying clothes. I never knew that God was setting him up for this journal that he's in. And I praise the Lord for this because we've been so happy. We have such a great understanding of God, and we know his purpose in our lives. And I'm telling you, this has been the best gift, other than my son and my granddaughter, that God has given me. And I praise him and love him, and I thank him.
To God be the glory.
Wow. Wow. I don't care how many times I watch it. I mean, it's very heartfelt. It's very honest. It's open. It's sincere. Oh man. Oh man.
And that's exactly what you feel from them when you are in their presence. I believe they're watching tonight. So Miss Benny, Mr. Benny and Miss Maria, I love you very much. And thank you so much for doing this for us. But yeah, they're exactly like that. And in the rest of the video, they talk about, you know, how they, not only are they spiritually connected, but they're on the same page about a lot of things, and they enjoy the time that they spend together. Mr. Benny, when Miss Maria was talking about the journey that Mr. Benny is on, Mr. Benny has 2 bachelor's degrees, and he's currently in school for a master's in theology. And he just keeps going, and she supports him 100%. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
I caught something that I think that a lot of people don't consider, not just from a relationship aspect, is that she brought up his mother and his mother being into church, and basically I took that as like a mentorship type of
Hmm.
thing. And a lot of young couples nowadays, unfortunately, the reason why the divorce rates are so high up is that we don't have older couples to go to. I
Hmm.
mean, even if you aren't in a relationship, it's good that you have that relationship with an older couple. Whether they were married or not, it's good to have a relationship with our elders to get those life experiences, because at the end of the day, we should not have to continuously make the mistakes that others made. We should be
No,
learning from those mistakes that other people made, and get wisdom from their mistakes. And I really um that video is very heartwarming.
I've watched it
Um,
20 times. I've watched it
I
20
mean, I don't think they realized what that video meant to the show. It was really nice of them to send that in, and really good to show. And I believe that his journey of theology school, it's going to be rewarding at the end.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
and we had talked before behind the scenes how even in talking about where they're at now, when they talked about their past, they didn't seem bitter, and they were
No,
right. They were right with God when they started dating, and the 13 years was, they didn't put no restrictions on each other. He was busy, she was busy. Sometimes we may put restrictions on. Well, I've been dating you for 2, 3 years. I'm ready to settle down.
they dated for 13 years before they made a decision, a mutual decision to get married.
Yeah. And he was steady buying clothes because he had another plan. He, he had another plan going on. He was being chosen, and he didn't even realize why he was buying all these clothes, because he was going to school.
She said, "We're going to do we must be getting ready to do a lot of hanging out." Yeah, in regards to their purpose.
And I know that I had to cut some of the video, so I
Mhm.
was able to put it up there. But explain what did I miss about the vacations?
Oh, they talked about how when they go on vacation that they enjoy themselves like as if they were teenagers. They really enjoy themselves. They don't vacation separately. They always go together. And I think that goes back to what DT was talking about in terms of whatever you enjoy, continue to do that. Like add to it, but don't take away from it. Um, they also, talked about how he inspires her, how he inspires her. She said that she had asked for a man, that knew God. And, Mr. Benny has been increasing his knowledge and his relationship with God. And I'm sure that that's a covering for her as well. So it's beautiful. And I know that there are people who are watching who might not necessarily like believe in God per se, right? But I think the important thing is that they reveal is that there is a spiritual component to maintaining love, and that there is purpose connected to maintaining love, and it coming from the heart is key to maintaining that love.
Mm.
So gotta know there's a spiritual component to it.
Yeah, they really, and I'm quite sure everybody in the chat who's seen them really enjoyed them, and we're gonna play it again. before we close the show. But I really, really appreciate them for, like I said, being transparent, being honest, being open, and being able to share a little bit of their secrets with everybody,
Yes,
with the world. Having it on YouTube,
yes.
people could reference them. Somebody could look at them and be like, "Oh, I see them. I know them real well. Yeah, yeah, you know." So now, because a lot of times we love the finished product, but we don't understand the journey to that
Mm,
product.
say that. Say that. It's a journey. It's a journey. And I'm so grateful that they shared. Miss Maria said that she was in a relationship with someone for 8 years, and that person had to go their separate way. And you and I talked about this a little bit before. She wasn't bitter about that. Look what
No,
she got in exchange. You know what I mean? And even Mr. Benny, that he didn't have, the best marriage. And he said he didn't have anything to compare it to. And I think that's having the elders and having positive relationships that we can look at is important, so that we can compare, where we are. Not that we want to have the same relationship that someone else is having, but we want to be able to see if we're getting everything we can out of the
I
relationships
know
that
that.
we're.
I know that. And we always want to be transparent. Me and you had a conversation this week about our grandfathers.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
I know how much both of our grandfathers meant to us, and I know that I'm bringing it up, and I got you all emotional. Um, my grandfather was my idol. I didn't get a chance to really tell you that he was my role model, and just to give you some story, Jules, I told you before, like my grandmother's father sent her to Chicago from Georgia, and my grandfather went to Chicago and found her, and they came with three kids from Chicago to New Jersey, and they built a family, had four more kids in New Jersey, and I mean the love they shared with each other was incredible. I mean it was like freaking frack. She let him brag because he was a bragger, but like they were always on the same page when it came to maintaining their family and the love they had for each other. Um, it was like you always talk about that love language, and I was fortunate enough that when my father passed away, it was like an unspoken rule that happened where we got close, and I would always go see them because we grew up. I grew up in the same town with them, but I was always go see them, and I would just sit there and I would laugh and just get a lot of information, a lot of background information about the family,
Mhm.
and just watching the love language, watching the love language that he had with other members of the family. He was a family man, and he loved his wife, man. He loved that. He loved my grandmother, like, and she loved him too. I mean, but it was like incredible. And I know we had shared that this week, and you had shared some things about your granddad too, as well as how he was a true patriarch of your family.
He
And I
was.
think, yeah, and I think that a lot of people don't understand that. When we do get closer to our elders, sometimes we look at our elders the wrong way, like they're a burden, instead of realizing that they are actually a gift. I got you all teary eyed now.
Oh my God, Vincent, and I have mascara on, and it's not waterproof. So.
No, I know, no, because I just wanted to bring that up because I know how much your grandfather loved his family, and I know how much he meant to you, and showing that love, and you told me your grandmother had passed first, like mine, so it was to see them live after the love of their life. It's a very interesting thing because their part of their heart is gone.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Quentin, my grandfather, he wasn't a perfect man. He was a man. He lived his life. He loved his life. Um, but what he showed me from the time I was very little was he tried to teach me how to play chess when I was 5 years old, and I never forgot that. And it once I understood the game of chess and how complex it was, I really felt honored and special that he trusted that I had the mental capacity to take that in. And I think in a lot of ways, it made me feel kind of limitless in terms of what I could achieve if I just put my mind to it. And that stuck with me. He was also the first male example in my life who celebrated me as a girl. He celebrated
Mm.
me as a girl. He celebrated me as a woman. He let me know, how I should be treated, how I should expect to be treated. And he showed me that example in how he treated my grandmother, and he was very honest. He could be brutally honest sometimes, but after he gave you a verbal lashing, he would take you out for a burger. So
Yeah, I think that they when you're a man of a certain age and what they seen with their eyes
yes.
and what they experienced, we talked. My grandfather came from the swamps of Georgia.
Mm,
Um, you don't have tolerance for a lot of the BS that we come with, the excuses. Um, Speaking about what the question the person put up, if anything you can learn from an early age what a healthy loving relationship looks like, they're correct.
absolutely.
I think that one of the issues with me and Julia can agree on is that we understand that our grandfathers were not perfect. And I think that a lot of times with relationships nowadays, we're looking for the perfect relationship instead of
Exactly.
instead of like the statement the person
Healthy.
said, instead of a healthy
A
relationship,
healthy.
which is totally
That's the
different.
front door.
Yeah, like
It's different.
you want something perfect, you're gonna find something that may seem perfect, but it'd be toxic and not healthy. Instead of
Healthy. I'm
instead of
sorry.
something instead of something healthy with flaws that y'all both could work on.
We're gonna need to argue sometimes. Okay? I'm not gonna like everything that you do. You're not gonna like everything that I do. We're gonna be on disagreement. I was talking to someone about the word compromise um this week and how I dislike the word because it sounds like in a sense somebody's giving up something in order to make someone happy. But you have to be able to come to agreement, and sometimes that doesn't happen automatically,
Well,
you know?
that's part of your book, the word compromise, which is basically like settling.
Exactly.
I put that in the group today.
Hmm.
One of the brothers on page 91, he
Yes,
said
Lee.
he said he says settling means not acquiring what you truly want.
And he got that from the word compromise. He said, if I want steak, why should I have a burger? And he said the problem with society he found was that people will, once you reach a certain age of maturity, people will say, well, why don't you just settle down? And he said that always has bothered him because the idea of settling down means just take anybody. Just get somebody. And he said, no, I want what I want, and I'm not going to compromise or settle on that. And I think from the example of Miss Maria and Mr. Benny, what you seek seeks you.
We're gonna um we're gonna play Miss Maria and Mr. Benny one more time. If you guys in the chat have any questions, just ask us the questions and we'll answer them right after we play them again. Let's get the lesson that these elders are trying to give us.
Hello, Julia. This is Marianne Benny. We're very grateful to be on your show, and we thank you for thinking of us. Our story started, well, back in 1990. I was in a relationship with a man for 8 years, and he was 15 years my senior. And he was in my life for a reason, a purpose. And I thank God for that because he taught me a lot, but then he had to move on. And I placed an ad in the Daily News, in the Dateline. I don't know if you remember that, but that was years ago. I was tired of being by myself. And at the same time, by coincidence, Ben was going through his changes with his wife. And in 1990, he also walked into a lawyer's office for a divorce. Now, let him tell you the rest of the story.
Thanks, babe. 1990, I divorced my wife. We weren't getting along, and I want to add that I wasn't saved at that time, and she was not saved at that time. So it just didn't work out because we neither one of us knew the Lord. But anyway, I read this article. I came in from work, and it was from the Dateline, and the article, it was specifically for me because it had the correct age, the height, weight, and everything. And I said, whoever this lady is, she's talking about me. So I answered it, and a couple of days later, she got back to me. We talked for a while, and I was working construction at Hostos Community College, and we decided to meet. My coworkers thought I was crazy because they said, well, what happens if she's not what you would expect her to be, and you told her what you had on so you couldn't get away from it? But I said, no, I'm not like that. So anyway, after work, we met, and we stayed in this little diner very late because she had to go to work the next day, and I had to go to work the next day. And this was in the Bronx, and I had to take the train all the way back to Brooklyn, but it didn't matter. And we've been together ever since.
Yes.
We dated for 13 years before we decided to make it official, and we got married, and we've been happily married for 15 years. And I just want to say that this is what a marriage is supposed to be like. Because before, when I was married, it was a lot of disagreements and arguing, and we didn't get along. And I said, how can people be married for so many years? Is this what marriage is about? And I said, no. I wasn't happy. She wasn't happy. I didn't have anything to compare it to. But now that I met Maria, I have been a very happy man. And I would marry her all over again. And this is the love of my life. I have to admit, I love her very much.
Thank you. And I love you too, babe. You've been an inspiration for me. I always wanted a man who not use drugs, not smoke, maybe a drink here and there, no big deal. But a man who wanted to know more about God. And I thank God that his mother was such a church lady, and she was always calling us, get to church, get to church. And at that time, we was still, we don't want to go. Because he was working late hours, and he was the MTA bus operator, and he was working crazy hours and on weekends, And me, being in accountants, I was working at crazy hours also. And we had our deadlines, so we didn't have time. But when he retired, he got tired of being home. It's like the walls were sinking in on him, and he decided. But before that, this man was ordering suits like crazy. And I'm like, we must be doing some serious hanging out because the way you're buying clothes. I never knew that God was setting him up for this journal that he's in. And I praise the Lord for this because we've been so happy. We have such a great understanding of God, and we know his purpose in our lives. And I'm telling you, this has been the best gift, other than my son and my granddaughter, that God has given me. And I praise him and love him, and I thank him.
To God be the glory.
It never gets old.
It never gets old.
Never gets old.
You guys in the chat, we really appreciate you guys for joining us
Yes.
tonight. Make sure that if you're on Facebook, to like, share, and tell people about the page. Tell people about what we do every Thursday. Tell people about Julia's two books, which is on Amazon, Crown Rules 1, as well as Crown Rules 2, King, How Do Black Men Love. You can find it. Also, she has merch for sale as well. Just inbox her for the details. If you're on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe and the like button, and spread the word, and set the algorithm off on YouTube and Facebook, so people can know what the show is all about. We have a lot of great things in store going forward, and I'm just gonna ask Julie because I didn't ask her this question prior. Are you having a show on Thanksgiving?
I don't think we should have a show on Thanksgiving,
Okay.
Quincy. I think
Okay.
we should respect that this has been a challenging year and we have a lot to be thankful for.
Okay.
And we should enjoy that.
So we're gonna pick you back up in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Um, and that's a long question. The next show we're having is called the next show we're having is gonna be episode 7.
Yes.
Which love have you had that you remember and cherish the most, and why?
And why?
So
Yes.
that's what we're gonna pick up for in 2 weeks. You guys in the chat, I can't tell you enough, as well as Julia, can't tell you enough how much we appreciate you guys for joining us each week.
Yes.
With your questions, with your statements,
Yes.
how it allow us to get a flow on the show.
Yes.
Me and Julia may talk 5 or 10 minutes before the show, but we don't do a lot of uh, comparing notes because we want to be as transparent and be able to have a good conversation like we were on the phone,
Yes.
have that type of conversation while we're doing the show. So
With
we don't
you.
want to we want to be very organic. So
Mhm.
you guys are part of the show
Yes.
just as well as me and Julia's part of the show. So we thank you guys, and remember, like, subscribe, and share. And you guys have a blessed night.
Good night, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving.